everyone, hope you guys are all doing great. I've recorded this a few times because I've gone over half an hour and I had to start again, because I don't want it to be any longer than half an hour, so I'm going to try and be as quick as I can. I've missed you guys, hope you all have been well. It's spring summertime here, so I'm really busy with my farming business and I don't do a lot of crafting in summertime, so I do apologize if you guys don't see any vids from me. I tend to craft more in winter time, and I haven't been in this craft room in the last 2 to 4 weeks. I've just been like dashing in and out just to grab stuff, but not really crafting whatsoever. So today I'm going to share with you guys two projects that I've created for Nadezhda Marchena, and it was her birthday in October, but I'm so far behind, guys. So I do apologize, Nadezhda, for being so late in sending these gifts out to you, and anybody else that's been waiting for packages for me. You're going to be waiting for a long time, but I haven't forgotten about any of you. So when the time comes and I have, the inspiration to get to it, I will get to it. So let's go ahead, or this vid's going to be longer than half an hour. So let's go. We have here, first project that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is a journal wrapper. If you follow me on Facebook, you would have seen this already, but this is the first time that I have had a chance to record since I have shared this on Facebook, and you guys know that would be like 2 months ago pretty much. So it was quite a while ago. So here's my journal wrapper. It is about 15 by 25 centimeters in length, the journal wrapper is, but with the additional trims on it, it's about 30 centimeters, maybe even 35 centimeters long. So it is quite long, and depending on your journal, you work accordingly to your journal and you make the wrapper to the size of your journal. So it's easier that way. And I will show you guys the basis of how you will put it together in this vid also. So I'll give you guys a quick overall look first. These are my handmade roses. And that's the back of the journal. The paper collection that I have used for this journal wrapper is the Gilded Lily paper collection by Graphic 45. And I have printed them, scanned them into my computer, and then printed it onto fabric. Excuse me. And that was inspiration from Michelle, and Michelle is Ribbons, Laces and Pearls, I think, or Ribbon, Pearls and Laces, one or the other. I'll pop her YouTube link down below so that you guys can go and check her out. So she had suggested it, and I did that because I love fabric more than I do paper, guys. So I do apologize for the people who love paper, but for me, paper is very paper is like stiff, coarse and hard, and for like altering boxes and stuff like that, sometimes I would use paper also, but for other feminine projects, I tend to use fabric more because it's just, to me, it's more feminine with the projects that I create, and I'm more like a fabric artist more than a paper artist. I will classify myself. I used to love paper, but that would be more than 2 years ago when I first started crafting. So let's go in and share with you guys. So like I mentioned, it's just a journal wrapper. It's not a fabric journal. So, and it's removable, so once you've finished your journal, you can put in another journal and off you go again. So that is the journal that I picked up at the charity store. I like to recycle, so I found this book that's good for journaling, good for adding images, just good for whatever. So I will be including that also, so Nadezhda can use it, put family pictures in there, whatever. And I've made 2 little pockets here that you can put a pen in also, and I will go into details of how you do that in a couple of minutes. So let's go through the basis of this particular cover. The journal just slides out like that. It's constructed with 2 pieces of fabric, front and back, and the front doesn't really matter because unless you're gonna have minimal embellishment on it, you would choose a beautiful, have the lovely side up. I have used the good side up, but if you're gonna cover the whole thing, it wouldn't really matter. So, but I've left the nice side up on the inside also, so because that's where you're gonna see the most of the fabric. You do not want to embellish the inside a lot because you don't want to have a crocodile journal. You want to keep it as nice as a journal shape as you can, because after you put pictures and all that into your journal, it's gonna be thick and chunky anyway. So minimal is best for the journal, what you call it, the inside of the journal. So I use my journal as my guide to create the size. So I lay my journal on top like that, and then I left about 2 centimeters down the bottom and 2 centimeters at the top here. And with the flap here, I actually wrap the flap over the journal first. So I kind of like wrapped it on top, and I made this side more wider than this particular side because I had wanted to create a pocket here to put the pen in. The 2 little pockets. If you don't want to make it too wide, you can just create one little pocket. You can just make it thinner and just use 1 strip of fabric. My strip of fabric is wider so that it can fit 2 pen in there. So if you wanted to make it narrower, which will make it more easy to remove the journal out, you can just make it fit 1 piece of fabric to fit your pen. So you will wrap it over this side also to give you an indication of how you will wrap your journal. So 2 pieces of fabric together, and then cut out your little pocket, sew your pocket in first, stitch these 2 sides here together first, and you measure accordingly like I mentioned before. Leave about 2 centimeters here and 2 centimeters up here. Then you stitch, you wrap it around your journal here and wrap it around your journal after you stitch this particular part here, because you don't want to pin it and then this is open, you know what I mean? You want to stitch that first and stitch this back side here first, wrap it around, and then you pin it down. But that's all after you sew your little pocket in also. So you start with your pocket and then you sew this, the 2 pieces of fabric together like this here, so that you don't get a big hole in here. Sew your pocket, sew this strip first, pin it down here, and then you stitched all the way across, and that forms your journal. That is pretty much it. I use this medium weight fabric for the center, for the construction of the journal wrapper, because it gives you a bit of firmness and a bit of body. If you use really fine fabric, it's going to be a bit wonky. It won't hold its shape as well. But if you do use thinner fabric, you would want to use like a thin layer of batting or something inside to give it more padding. But I didn't want any bulkiness, so I just used a medium weight upholstery fabric that I have in my stash, which is cream and in this beautiful damask fabric, damask pattern, sorry. And I used that for my front and my back all over. 2 pieces of fabric, and I measured accordingly to what I've mentioned before. So once you stitched all that together, you have formed the basis of your journal wrapper. And I've used a gimp to embellish this particular part here. I've used my pinking shears just to cut the edges here so that I don't have to fold all the edges in, because I always like that tattered sort of a rough look anyways. But if you wanted to fold all this in, you will go the extra step and put this in. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Hubby just wanted to know where the phone is. So I used some Chinese gimp or braided trim, pop it like along there and along here. I think I only glued this down. I didn't stitch it. I glued it down and glued down these, but you can totally sew the whole lot. I was talking about the pinky shears here, sorry, before I was interrupted. So pinky shears and sew it down will make it a lot easier than you folding all the edges down really neatly. But if you have a lot of time, you can go ahead and do that. It will give you a nicer finish, but I like that distressed little tattered finish. So I just use my pinky shears and then just voila, stitch all over it. And the same with the flap inside here. I didn't fold them in. I just used my pinky shears and then just stitch them together. Don't mind my farm hands. They're really tattered from working every day pretty much. So I've used some laces from my stash going across here, glued them down, and the top here also, and that just forms my center of my journal. So with the pen in there, as you can see, it is crocodile a little bit, but it's not so bad. Without the pen in there, it's as flat as you're gonna get it, alright, because you kept the embellishments on the inside very minimal, and it was able to close flat. On here I've used this cutout from the paper collection, says Gilded Lily, and again it's printed onto fabric. This paper collection, I wasn't really fond of it. I love the the theme of it, but I wasn't too fond of the bright blue. If you look at the paper collection properly, because I'm not a blue person, I have grown to love blue more now than I have previously. But if you've got the paper collection, the blue is really, really bright, especially in these sort of pages. It looks really bright on the screen, but guys, it's not. Once you scan into your computer and you print it onto fabric, it's really beautifully muted and gives you that sheer sort of shabby wash over it, and it doesn't print out the same quality, like the sharpness that you would have in the paper. And I love that so much more. So that's why I love this paper collection for printing onto fabric. Because if you have something that's really muted already, the color would be even more muted when you print it out. So it's great that the paper was really bright to start off with. So let's go ahead and I'll explain to you guys what I've done here. So I've chosen my images that I want to use, pick out a few, and then just rearrange how you want it to be embellished, like the front of your cover. Down the bottom here, I have laid it with some doily edging from my stash. And then this particular lace that I have avocado dyed across here, some more doily motifs here. And then on the bottom of this particular image, I just used a piece of lace fabric just to pop it down. And then I went on to layering my image on top. I added this beautiful border at the top here also, the same one as the bottom one. Added all the way the top here going towards the back and over, the same as the bottom. It's one continuous strip going front and back. So once I've done the top and the bottom, I layer my image down. At the back of this particular image, before I glued it down, I cut out a piece of batting, a thin piece of batting that's a few millimeters, or a few, not even centimeters, just a little bit smaller than your image, so that it doesn't show on the edges. So a little bit smaller than your image, and it just gives it firmness, as well as raises your image so it's not so flat on there. If you just glue the image straight on there, it's gonna be like up and down. It's not like quilted look. So that's what you want. And if you want to have that extra quilted look, instead of gluing it down, you will stitch it down. But if you're going to stitch it down, you will stitch it down before you form the basis of your journal first. Okay, so that the stitching doesn't show through onto the other side. You will stitch it onto the first layer of the fabric here first before you form the shape. So it hides the stitching on the inside of the first layer of fabric. If you're a sewer, you would know what I mean. If you're not a sewer, don't worry about the stitching. You would just glue it like I did here because it's faster, but it doesn't give you that quilted look. When you stitch it down, it will puff it up a little bit more because you've got batting inside here. So if you're not a quilter, you probably won't understand what I'm talking about. But anyways, let's continue. So once I glued the image down with the batting in at the back, I then went on to framing my image with beautiful laces and trims from my stash here and here. This particular applique here is one piece, and I chopped them up into 3 pieces and added onto here, here, and down the bottom, wedding appliques from my stash here and here that I avocado dyed and gave it this beautiful fleshy color. These beautiful flowers that I have created, and these flowers are inspired by Tonya Mayhew. I think that's how you pronounce your surname. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm really bad at pronouncing names, but I'll put Tonya's Etsy link down below, so if you guys want to go and purchase some flowers similar to these, you can. These are handmade by myself, and they are not easy to make. So do appreciate the time and effort that, you know, crafters do put into their projects, guys. You know, people might list things, handmade things for sale, and you go, oh, that's so expensive. You try and make it yourself first before you say that's so expensive, because it is not easy to make. It might seem expensive, but you know, with crafters, you know, when you make something, the time and effort that you put in there, every little detail, is a long time, and the time that you put into flowers like this is a long process. This particular flower is made with 3 layers of fabric, the small, the medium, and the large, and heaps of layers. I would say maybe 25-30 petals in just one flower, guys, and it's not easy. So if you're not a crafter, you wouldn't understand, but if you're a crafter and you make flowers yourself, then you would know the time and effort that goes into making a particular flower. And this particular flower, once you cut all the petals out, you cinch all the edges of every single petal, and then you start forming the petal start forming each individual petal from the center out, and that's how you get this beautiful fluffiness. So my first ever flower was this particular one here, inspired by Tanya's flowers. I have tried to make these flowers a long time ago, but I was unsuccessful because you just need practice pretty much. I practice and practice and practice just to get these particular flowers. And first time I tried to make these flowers a long time ago, I nearly pulled all my hair out, guys. It was really depressing, and the flowers did not look like this whatsoever. The flower was like flopping in all areas. The petals didn't stay up like this. The petals was just flopping down, and it wasn't together as this particular one here. So that was my very first one I tried after I was being inspired by Tanya's flowers. And Tanya did send me a rack of beautiful flowers, and that was my greatest inspiration. So thank you so much, Tanya. These are made out of a chiffon fabric, another chiffon fabric here, and a little miniature rose with chiffon fabric. This particular one that I've used here is an organza fabric. And organza fabric, if you're first time making these flowers, you will want to go with organza fabric, because once you cinch all the edges, it has more firmness. It's less floppy and more easy to work with. So curtain organza fabric is where you will find this fabric. You go to the curtain place, and you will find some curtain shears. They have more firmness and more body, and you will look for synthetic ones that will burn and will cinch, that will curl the petals back here. See, these I didn't cinch it as well because I wanted that shabby sort of frayed look on it. But if you don't want that shabby sort of frayed look, you will make sure that it all cinched properly. But I don't mind, because I love that sort of shabby sort of look on them. So these are made from a cream fabric, and to get this sort of like a two-tone look, I sprayed the center with Lindy Stamp Gang in the cotton candy color pink, cotton candy pink color. Sorry, I'm talking back to front here. And I sort of like just press it like that, just to distribute the color throughout the particular flower, and heat set it just to dry it faster. On the bottom here, I have just added some dangle trims from my stash, added a pearl bow, made like strands of pearl tied into a bow, glued it here, and just added some appliques from my stash. The back here, I've chosen this image, and I've cut it with my pinky shears only. And then I've used the same trim from the inside onto here, in here, and just left it really plain and simple, because you don't want the bottom to be thick and chunky, or your journal is going to be lopsided pretty much when it's sitting down. And I just used some seam binding as my closure on the side here also. You can use lace, you can use whatever, but I just went with the seam binding. So that is pretty much my journal wrapper. So going on to my second project is an altar frame. And this frame here I picked up at the charity store for a couple of dollars, and it was just like a wooden color. As you can see the back here, I'm yet to finish the back off. I just wanted to show you guys the color before I started. It's all timber, and it's the same color on this side as what you've seen there also. So I used household water-based paint to paint my frames or my furnitures that I picked up at the charity stores. I will not use acrylic paint, because acrylic paint, the ones that I can only find here are Kaiser Craft, or I can't remember what the other brand is, but Kaiser Craft is not very good for altering projects, guys. I'm not even sure how it is when you're painting metal or stuff like that, but on wooden things I don't like the finish, because it's very translucent. The paint is not like, as you would call makeup, very pigmented. It's not pigmented, and you have to do layers after layers after layers just to get the same effect as you would with household water-based paint. So that's what I've used here, and you can buy them in sample pots that are not very big. That's what I use only, and the water base, and I use like a matte finish, so it's not shiny. I don't want any gloss on my furniture or anything, because I like shabby. I don't want that glossy finish. So unless you like glossy finish, then you will ask for a gloss paint. So it's water based also. You pour your paint into a paint tray, or I always use a plate that I could, you know, recycle and use for painting. I pour a little bit of paint on my plate. I put my paintbrush in it. I stipple it onto the side just to remove the excess paint, and then I lightly brush it in random places first. I always start where I want to have more paint. Where you want to get a bit of distressing, you will leave that last until you have very minimal paint on your paintbrush, and then you lightly, with a light hand, brush it on top, and then that will still give you the distressed look as you guys see here. If there's too much paint on anywhere that you want to give it a distressed look and it hasn't dried or semi-dried, you can just rub it over with your fingers like that in the areas that you want raised or you don't want paint on it. It will show up again. So because I've stippled my brush onto the plate, it didn't have as much color, so I was able to just lightly brush it and give it this shabby effect as you guys can see there. I printed this image out of my computer, and then the Lamod images that you can find on Google or Pinterest, anywhere. Find one that's high resolution, that once you print it out it's not going to be fuzzy. If you get really small images, when you print it out, they're going to be fuzzy, guys. So choose pictures that once you click on them, they come up really nice and big. You can resize them if you want to on WordPad, and then just print them out whatever size that you want to print them out. So I actually printed this particular image onto fabric, and then this is the image that I had chosen, and it's got French words down the bottom here also, as you guys can see. A beautiful pastel color scheme, so choose your colors accordingly. This particular image here, if I were to alter that, I would make her like into a vintage theme more than like a shabby color, because of the colors that she's wearing and the color palette that's on the image. I went with these particular colors because this lady was wearing blue and this particular lady had white and pink on her dress, so it went together really well. This particular lady here has got a dimensional dress on, but it's so difficult to cut the shape of her body. I just left her as is. I didn't cut any fabric to go over her dress. So I'm moving it to the side so that you guys can see her dress. So it has some like ends that are fluffy, but I don't mind it because that's how I like to create. Or you can just leave that step out altogether, because it is really difficult to cut the shape of the dress to her body size, and I just left it as I have here this lady, and you can still embellish it. So she was wearing blues. I had cut out some blue fabric as close as I can to her dress, and just cut out the shape and stuck it onto her with hot glue. And then I went on to layering different fabrics and laces onto her dress to form the beautiful draping skirt going across here. The first layer is organza. Second layer is some shiny lace that Nadezhda has sent me for, I think, my birthday package last year. Thank you, Nadezhda. And some vintage or antique laces from my stash here that I had just pleated with hot glue and just ruffle across here. Some more vintage or antique laces from my stash. Little snippets here and there also. I have actually cut her hand out from the actual image itself, and I have raised it on top of the actual fabric here just to give it a dimensional look, because her hand, if I were to follow her dress all the way up here with the tail of her dress, is going to hide her hand. So to still have her arm and her hand showing, I had carefully snipped out her hand and raised it up and glued this particular I don't know what you call this, the bottom, this part of the dress. I'm not really into fashion and costumes, so I have no idea. It's not the bust. The bust is up here. It's the, I don't know what you call that, but the back of the dress. So I have raised her hand and glued all these embellishments down first. Used some fine laces and made her bust feature there, and some more laces as her collar. This particular lady had a bow here and beautiful pink details on her skirt, so I want to mimic that also. Just go with the flow of the dresses, guys, and it will be a lot easier. Where there would be sleeve details, just put little lace trims on where you think there would be sleeves detail, as you guys see here. So a little bit of lace just tucked here. I've chopped a little bit of satin fabric and I cinched all the edges so they won't fray, and I tied it into a knot, guys, and it forms this beautiful bow. It's just a knot. Get the piece of fabric, tie it in a knot and pull it. and then I had glued it down here and put it together. And the scale of this is so tiny, guys, because it's a small frame. This frame is about maybe 20 centimeters by 10 centimeters, and with the details of these images here, the scale is really tiny, so you're working with really fine details. So if you've got sore hands or sore fingers, you'll probably need a lot of patience, guys. So I have added a bit of lace, done the feature with the bow here, and with her dress I pleated some satin fabric and just glued it here and glued it here to form this particular part of her skirt. And this particular fabric is two different pieces. This is just a strip going across, and this is a piece of, like, the fabric is like big like that, and then I just pleated it and gathered it and made it smaller and glued it here, and then just pinch it down and finished it off here. And it just gives it like a dimensional look, as you guys can see there. Really beautiful. And again, this is Pinterest inspired. And then to finish these particular parts off here, I ruffled up some laces from my stash, and I just hot glued that across here. I had a little bow in my stash also, and I put it onto the back of her dress and added some really teeny rosebuds onto here. And with the hat features, I had added some lace. They weren't wearing any hats, they just had like a nice hairdo like this lady has, you know, just a nice hairdo, but I wanted to give it that extra kick, added more laces to her. So I've added some beautiful antique laces from my stash, dab of hot glue, a little piece of lace, just plonk it down, and then that's pretty much it. This particular part here, I chopped up a piece of lace and I twisted it like you would twist a lolly. Just twisted it like that, hold it in my finger, dab of glue down onto her hair, and then just pop the lace down, and it just like split it into like a bow shape here and here, fanned out, and some more little rosebuds in her hair. This lady has some beautiful millinery flowers in her hair as well as in her dress, so it gives a beautiful contrast and all matching. So that is my altered frame, guys, and I hope you do like these particular projects that I created for you, Nadezhda, and I will be including other projects that I have created in the past for you also, but these are the two that I want to feature today. And I thank you guys for watching, and I do apologize for taking so long to send this package out to you, but lots of love for you and lots of kisses for you also, and I hope and wish that you had a wonderful birthday. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Any questions, just pop it down below and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. Love you guys. Bye.